So, Governor, it seems to be presidential candidacy in the ring season. We've seen the president himself has called again for voters to give him a second term. I want to know from you, are you about to throw your hat in the ring? And the famous Kennedy question, fellow New Englander, why do you want to be president?
Well, two very good questions. And so obviously I'm very interested. We'll make a decision this summer. Obviously, I think a lot of folks are looking to a governor, to someone who understands how systems work. They really want things to get done. I mean, at the end of the day, Republican or Democrat, Washington just hasn't gotten a whole lot done in terms of really providing opportunities. And I think folks see, governors as a potential. So we've been traveling the country. I'm a Republican. I want to make my party bigger. I want independents to get on board. I want the younger generation to kind of be that have been disenfranchised to get back on the team, so to say. I think I'm not one of these people that yells at folks, and I don't think anyone gets inspired by being yelled at. I try to be very positive and optimistic because I woke up in the United States of America. Right? Let's start with a sense of gratitude. So I think when it comes to, why, I'm not going to compare myself to Kennedy as you did or anything, but in terms of New England, I'll say this. New England governors know how systems work. We don't just talk about more money to mental health. We talk about what are the doors of access for a family, what's happening in our schools. We don't just talk about more money to drug and treatment and overdoses and with the opioid crisis. We talk about how do we blow up and rebuild the system to be more modern, to have wraparound services, really attach themselves to the communities. We're very community driven here. And I just think America is looking for folks that, again, know how those systems work. It's not about headlines. It's not about political stunts. It's not about saying one thing and getting nothing done. It's not about the money in politics, because we all know that's a problem. It's really about just brass tacks, getting back to the basics, putting people first, not government. It's not about me. I'm the governor, and I'll tell you, it ain't about me. I'm not here to solve your problems. We're here to create opportunity, and then let the folks do what they're going to do best and walk that.
All right.
I'm from the live free or die state, right? That's what it's all about.
With so many challenges and questions, a seat at America's top table may seem like a poisoned chalice, but more and more are jumping into the 2024 presidential race. And my first guest tonight is tipped to join the growing crowd, New Hampshire's Republican Governor Chris Sununu. When he joined me from Manchester, he carved out a very different path from the one GOP contenders like Donald Trump are carving out. Governor Sununu, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much, and pleasure to be here.
So, Governor, it seems to be presidential candidacy in the ring season. We've seen the president himself has called again for voters to give him a second term. I want to know from you, are you about to throw your hat in the ring? And the famous Kennedy question, fellow New Englander, why do you want to be president?
Well, two very good questions. And so obviously I'm very interested. We'll make a decision this summer. Obviously, I think a lot of folks are looking to a governor, to someone who understands how systems work. They really want things to get done. I mean, at the end of the day, Republican or Democrat, Washington just hasn't gotten a whole lot done in terms of really providing opportunities. And I think folks see, governors as a potential. So we've been traveling the country. I'm a Republican. I want to make my party bigger. I want independents to get on board. I want the younger generation to kind of be that have been disenfranchised to get back on the team, so to say. I think I'm not one of these people that yells at folks, and I don't think anyone gets inspired by being yelled at. I try to be very positive and optimistic because I woke up in the United States of America. Right? Let's start with a sense of gratitude. So I think when it comes to, why, I'm not going to compare myself to Kennedy as you did or anything, but in terms of New England, I'll say this. New England governors know how systems work. We don't just talk about more money to mental health. We talk about what are the doors of access for a family, what's happening in our schools. We don't just talk about more money to drug and treatment and overdoses and with the opioid crisis. We talk about how do we blow up and rebuild the system to be more modern, to have wraparound services, really attach themselves to the communities. We're very community driven here. And I just think America is looking for folks that, again, know how those systems work. It's not about headlines. It's not about political stunts. It's not about saying one thing and getting nothing done. It's not about the money in politics, because we all know that's a problem. It's really about just brass tacks, getting back to the basics, putting people first, not government. It's not about me. I'm the governor, and I'll tell you, it ain't about me. I'm not here to solve your problems. We're here to create opportunity. and then let the folks do what they're going to do best and walk that.
All right.
I'm from the live free or die state, right? That's what it's all about.
Indeed, but you also sound very sensible. And sensible is not really the term one might use for the strongest wing of your party right now, the Trump wing. So what I want to ask you is a serious question about how you are a four-time governor in a purple state, neither very Republican or very Democratic, could go either way. That's a big deal because it means you have to work by consensus on issues that matter to people. Last election, you won by 15 points. How can you translate that into a primary wing when there's so much flame throwing by the other candidates, notably Donald Trump?
Sure. So look, everybody wants a fighter, right? You got to be able to fight. You got to be able to stand on your issues and fight hard. But we got to remind folks, more important than being a fighter is being a winner, right? There's no use in having a fighter if they're always losing the fights, if they don't get stuff done. You know, a lot of us backed former President Trump in 16 and in 20. I was 100% behind him because he said he was going to drain the swamp. He didn't do it. He said he was going to fix health care. He didn't do it. He said he was going to secure the border. He didn't do it. He said he was going to be fiscally responsible. Lord knows it was anything but, with another $8 trillion added to debt. That is real money. So when those are all Republican values, right? Limited government, local control. That's really what Republicans are built on. And that's what we can all rally around. So yes, I understand there's a lot of headlines and flame throwing on one side, especially with a very extreme part of our base, not dissimilar to the Democrats, right? They have their extreme side of their base, more socialism and all that sort of thing. But most of us are in here, right? Republican or Democrat, most of us are in here and just want to get stuff done. And I think as the debates transpire, as the arguments get made, I think there's going to be a path and opportunity for folks like myself or others to step forward and drive forward on results-driven leadership. And you got to know how to do it, not just in the private sector, but you have to know how to work within the public sphere, how to actually lead Congress, lead the Senate, give a little to get a lot, how to negotiate. If you can't negotiate, nothing's ever going to get done. And people want
results. And that is the key.
I think there's a real path here.
Yeah, and that's the crux, to negotiate, to work across the aisle, to get things done for people. As perhaps in your father's generation, he worked for more moderate Republicans before he was governor. He worked in the White House. And we've seen how that works for people. So does it concern you that the latest poll, NPR, shows that 71% of Republicans said they think Trump should be president again? That drops only 8 points to 63%. Even if Trump is convicted of a crime. It's pretty dire, isn't it, for your vision of politics for the people and getting things done?
No, I'm very optimistic. So I think what those polls are saying are people see the indictment that has come down. Even I've been watching, if you watch CNN or MSNBC, even those legal analysts, very liberal legal analysts, say this is a very weak case. They know it's very politically driven. So when you see those polls, they're saying, do you support former President Trump? And people are saying yes, because they support him, because they feel like the people are going after him in a very political way. So they're going to show that support. Now, does that translate to an actual vote in the ballot box, on the ballot 9 months from now? No, not necessarily at all. We haven't even had a debate yet. We haven't even had a chance to narrow down the candidates, get behind one or two others. So there's still so much more politics to be played out. I think a lot of folks are showing support for the former president because they feel like he's, the left wing, if you will, the liberal elite, whatever you want to call it, is going after him. He's playing the victim card, right? This guy was supposed to be a fighter, but he's playing the victim card, and he's building a lot of sympathy from it. But I don't necessarily think it translates into some overwhelming win in terms of the ballot box. Republicans want winners and folks that get stuff done, and not just winners in the nomination. That's easy. Winners in November of 24. Last time I checked, you can't govern if you don't win. So unless we have someone that can cross that finish line in November, I think that argument will be loud and clear from a variety of different sources as we hit these primaries. And I think voters will go in that ballot box and say, look, they might have been picking on the guy, but I need to win. And so they're going to galvanize behind some other candidate.
Yes, you remind us of what happened not just in 2020, but in 2022, the midterms. The Trump-picked candidates, by and large, were not winners, as you've just said. So perhaps the Republicans will be able to, rally around that very important fact. But here's what I also want to ask you, because now Governor DeSantis, he's thrown his hat in the ring pretty much. And, you know, he's taking on Donald Trump. He said a few things which I'll ask you about. But particularly I want to ask you because we are in the middle of this, I don't know, crisis of disinformation, political polarization, you know, telling all sorts of populist and other lies. But this, just the idea that it seems that some Republicans have been governing according to populist television anchors like Tucker Carlson, suggesting that migrants be sent up to your part of the country, you know, in the summer. And sure enough, that's what DeSantis did. And it was kind of weird. And I just wonder whether you think that's still going to be something that you all have to pay attention to, populist television and other talk show hosts on the conservative side.
Just like Joe Biden. I mean, you got to call it fair on both sides here. I think we do have to be careful of that populist mentality, but at the same time, you have Joe Biden that wants to, you know, just pay everybody's loans off. They want to keep the free rent program going. They want to just keep spending money, creating money without understanding that it creates inflation and hurts the lowest income families. We're going to just whistle past the graveyard when it comes to this massive homeless crisis in places like California or the massive violence issues that you're seeing in Chicago and other major cities. I mean, these are the places where that Democrats should do very well, should be supporting their community and are failing them. Why? Because the populist voices are out there. So I think it's a problem on both sides. I think both sides have to deal with it. And the bulk of America wants winners. They want folks that just get stuff done. I guess the primary process is hard, you know, and there's too much money in politics. We all get that. I think there should be massive campaign finance reform. I was at an event actually with Speaker Pelosi yesterday, and she said it. I agree with her 100%. All this dark money going in there that effectively allows incumbents to solidify themselves, right? You add gerrymandering onto that. That's a major problem. The genie's kind of out of the bottle there. I don't know how you kind of get it back in, but the gerrymandering, the big money, these are real problems that allow folks to go and almost push folks deeper into the left, deeper into the right corner, force them to take more extreme positions because they're more afraid of being challenged by their own party than they are by the other side. So that's really at the crux of it. Then you had social media and the fact that everyone just wants to sell advertising and all that sort of thing. That's not going away. So my message to everybody is we need to learn to be more truthful, more honest, more accountable within that dynamic, right? Fox found some accountability and they took action. CNN, other stations, other social media outlets, they have to all be accountable to themselves one way or the other. Our words matter, whether it's how we treat people, whether it's what we say and not putting out the truth or whatever it might be. So we're in a transitional period here to be sure, but there will be a new normal where everybody has a voice. So hopefully accountability gets raised.
All right. Well, I think you're laying out your case very clearly for a pragmatic way to get things done for the people. So let's talk about our international audience, which is very concerned about where America's foreign policy will continue to go. So we talked about DeSantis. He clearly tripped up and didn't understand the stakes in Ukraine, where he called Russia's invasion just a territorial dispute. Now, his own party and many others, obviously pushed back. He had to push back and retract. You have said in your Washington Post column, the Russian invasion of Ukraine is not a territorial dispute, as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis described it this month. Russia is engaged in a war against an innocent people, and it must be condemned. Can you elaborate on how you would continue what I presume you believe in, a fight to support the rules of the international road by defending Ukraine?
Absolutely. So look, America's strength as a world power, and it is a world power, has to be predicated on clarity. Our allies know we are going to be with them. Our enemies know that we have resolve and will stand. We're not going to dip our toe in and dip our toe out. That is not what we are about. And we are founded and we are based in the fundamentals of freedom and supporting those that would lay their life on the line for freedom, building allies, building coalitions, fighting for that and supporting it. And I think supporting you, not just supporting Ukraine, but winning that war, helping Ukraine win that war is absolutely vital. And we can do it. We don't need to put troops on the ground, anything like that, but we can support them and do that. And that sends a message across the world. Look, America is the most humanitarian, generous country in the world. Through our strength, through our economic success, we help our allies. We support everybody else. But you need to be very clear in that. when you kind of be wishy-washy because you're putting your finger into the wind and testing the political winds. That is not acceptable on the international stage. World peace comes through America's strength. I believe that very strongly. I think Reagan was a big believer in that, and I support that very much. Doesn't mean that we can just wave a magic wand and be everybody's police department and solve everybody's problems. But with our strength and clarity of message, it brings kind of a calming, if you will. Because again, your allies know you're going to be there. Your enemies know they better watch out.
Are you concerned by what some people are concerned about? For instance, the former Republican Treasury Secretary, Hank Paulson, recently told the FT, this is about China. I strongly believe that President Biden would like to stabilize the China relationship, but both Republicans and Democrats in Congress have staked out a very strong line, which complicates things for Biden. In addition to that, the retired Admiral William McRaven, who you all know very well, former head of U.S. Special Ops, the leader of the raid to capture bin Laden, said this on our program yesterday about China. Take a listen.
We need to find common ground with China. And we need to find common ground on trade. We need to find it on climate, on space, something so that when things do get tense, we have kind of avenues of conversation. I was talking to a senior official in the White House not too long ago who said they have more conversations with Russia than they do with China. Well, that's not good.
Speaking to our Walter Isaacson, so do you believe that there actually needs to be a more pragmatic way of dealing with this massive competitor than something that might accidentally push the U.S. into war?
I think he was exactly right. You need to establish relations. You need to have communication. Even Reagan could pick up the phone at any moment and call Gorbachev on any issue. But this administration, the Biden administration, doesn't even talk to China. They don't even go over. Make no mistake, China is no friend of the United States right now. They don't believe in capitalism or our Western ideals. But we are going to have to be partners in some realm, economically and for other reasons, for quite some time. So let's make sure we have that relationship. Make sure they know who is in charge, and that's the United States of America. You can't assert your authority over the partnership if you're not even willing to pick up the phone and have the conversation. So this administration, I think the Secretary of State has to take full responsibility, has been a complete disaster when it comes to maintaining our strength over the Pacific, maintaining our position with that relationship. Whether it's technology, whether it's batteries, whether it's materials and supplies, and we're just going to have to be partners with them and rely on them for a lot of our supply chain, at least in the near term. So you better have a relationship with them. And like I said, they don't need to be our buddy, but you better make sure they know who's in charge. And again, you just pick up the phone. I mean, how do you know where they are in anything? And what's happening? Now they're looking to establish their own reserve currency. That's a real threat to America's economy because they feel disrespected. They feel like we won't even have a conversation with them. So again, I think that America's clarity of message, clarity of where we stand with all world leaders is really important in terms of making sure that there's peace and there's opportunity for Americans in our economy.
All right. Well, Governor Sununu, thank you very much indeed. And when did you say you were throwing your hat into the ring? When will that announcement come?
Maybe by dinner. Maybe we'll see how the day goes. No, look, I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to say probably early summer. I think everyone probably needs to figure this thing out by early summer to get on that debate stage, get ballot access, all the logistics that have to happen, and really force the discussion because it is going to take 7 months to really start sorting this thing out. Hopefully everyone gets on the debate stage. Trump says he won't, but I think ultimately, look, you can't say you're a fighter if you're afraid to have a conversation on a debate stage, right? We don't want him to wimp out on us. But we'll see what ultimately happens. It'll be a roller coaster for the next 6 to 9 months. It'll be a fun one.
All right. Well, we'll be watching and we will hope to invite you back again. Thank you very much, Governor.
Thank you. It's been an honor.